Hello everyone, welcome to the Bodhi Academy. In today's video, we are going to continue with the class 11 biology chapter 20, that is locomotion and movement. So in the first video, we have learned about what is locomotion and what is movement. Then locomotion is when a person or an animal moves from one place to another, whereas movement can be even the movements of limbs or head. Uh, all locomotion is movement, but not all movement is a locomotion. Then we have learned about the types of movements. There are three types of these movements, that is amoeboid, ciliary and muscular. Then we have learned about the muscles and the three types of muscle, that is skeletal or the striated muscle, then the visceral or smooth muscles or the non-striated muscles, and the third one are the cardiac muscles. Now talking about the skeletal muscles. So it is made up of muscle bundles, that is fascicles, held together by collagenous connective tissue called the fascia. So these muscles are held together by collagenous connective tissue. So it is held together by connective tissue. Then each muscle bundle contains a number of muscle fibers, and each muscle fiber is lined by plasma membrane called the sarcolemma enclosing the sarcoplasm. So as we can see here in this diagram, now see here, these are the fascicles or the muscle bundles. These are all the muscle bundles, and each muscle bundle contains a number of muscle fibers. So all these are the muscle fibers. So here we can see all these are the muscle fibers over here, and these are the muscle bundles. So these are the bigger muscle bundles. Then so this here we can see, this is the sarcolemma, which is a plasma membrane lining the each muscle fiber. Now partially arranged myofibrils are present in muscle bundle, having alternate light and dark bands, and due to presence of protein called the actin and myosin. Okay, so this is basically the structure of these skeletal muscles. Then light bands contain actin and is called an I band or isotrophic band, and the dark band contain the myosin. So this will contain, light band will contain actin and the dark bands will contain myosin, and they are called as the A band or the anisotrophic band. So isotrophic and anisotrophic. Now both the bands are present parallel to the parallel to each other in a longitudinal fashion. So they are present parallel to each other. So here we can see, this is the sectional view of muscle showing the muscle bundle and muscle fibers. As I said, these are the muscle fibers, these pink ones, and then the larger ones are the muscle bundle, which are formed by the accumulation of muscle fibers. Then each of these fiber will have a plasma membrane covering called a sarcolemma, and there are also blood capillaries between these, as you can see. Then next talking about the structure of contractile protein. So here we have the structure. Now each thin filament, that is actin, is made of two F actins helically wound to each other. Now here this green beaded portion that we see, that is the F actin. So each thin filament, that is the actin of contractile protein, has these two such F actin filaments which are helically wound to each other. So see here we can see, these are the F actins. So these parts, these are the F actin. Then two filaments of another protein, that is tropomyosin, also runs close to it. Now here we can see this is the tropomyosin. See, this is the tropomyosin which runs close to this helically wound F actins. And then a complex of protein, that is troponin, is also distributed along this fiber at regular intervals. So on this tropomyosin, another protein called as the troponin is also present at regular intervals. So as we can see here, this is the troponin. Then talking about the myosin monomer or the meromyosin. So each myosin filament is made of many monomeric protein called the meromyosin. So here we can see the myosin monomer structure or the meromyosin. Then each meromyosin has a globular head with short arm and tails. So this is the globular head. It has short arm and tail. Then globular head has ATP binding site. So as we can see here, this globular head, it has these ATP binding sites. Sorry. Then the next part is talking about the skeletal system. So now we have already covered the skeletal muscles. Now we are going to talk about the skeletal system. So skeletal system, the framework of bones and cartilages form the skeletal system. This we know. Our skeleton is made up of various bones and cartilages. Now in human beings, it consists of 206 bones and some cartilages. So this is the basic knowledge which we have learned since the lower classes, that our skeletal system or our skeleton has 206 different kinds of bones and some cartilages. So now the skeletal system in humans is made up of, or it is divided into two divisions, that is, the first one is axial skeleton and the second is appendicular skeleton. So as we can see here, the first axial skeleton, it will consist of the skull, the vertebral column, sternum and the ribs. So these all will be contained in the axial skeleton, that is, the first is skull, all the skull bones and the facial bones, then the vertebral column, this part, and the ribs also, and then the sternum. So here the sternum and the ribs, so all these will constitute the axial skeleton. And then the second type is the appendicular skeleton, which will have the bones of limbs along with their girdles. So it will constitute all these girdles and the bones of the limbs. So first talking about the axial skeleton. Now this axial skeleton will have 80 bones. This will include the skull, vertebral column, sternum and the ribs. Now first talking about the skull. Now the skull has 22 bones and is composed of cranial and facial bones. So as we can see over here, this skull will have 22 bones in total, and it constitutes of the cranial, meaning this head part, the skull part, and the facial bones. So cranial bones are 8. So as we can see here, these larger cranial, the skull bones are 8 in number, and it forms the protective covering of the brain or the cranium. Basically the skull is made up of these 8 bones. Then the facial region constitute of, I'll take a different color. So the facial region consists of 14 skeletal systems. 14 skeletal system that form front part of the skull. So this front part is made up of 14 bones, and hyoid bone, that is the U-shaped, form the base of buccal cavity. So this bone, this hyoid bone will form the, it is a U-shaped bone which forms the base of the buccal cavity or the mouth. Then also there are bones in our middle ear. So the middle ear also has 3 bones, that is malleus, incus and stapes, which are collectively called as the ear ossicles. So there are 3 tiny bones in the ear over here which help us in listening. Sorry, and they are collectively called as ear ossicles. Then the skull joins the vertebral column with 2 occipital condyles. So as we can see here, this is the occipital condyle where the skull is jointed to the vertebral column. Then talking about the vertebral column, it consists of 26 serially arranged vertebrae. Okay, so these are units or the vertebrae which are serially arranged. So in this manner, and they are 26 in total. Now the first vertebra is atlas, that combines with 2 occipital condyles. So the first vertebrae over here is known as atlas, and it is attached to the occipital condyle in the skull. Then the first then other includes the 7 cervical vertebrae. So here, from here, the 7 vertebrae are called as the cervical vertebrae. So from here till here. Then thoracic are 12. So here this we can see this region. These 12 vertebrae are called as the thoracic vertebrae. And then the lumbar are the 5. So then there are 5 lumbar vertebrae. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the lumbar vertebra. And then there is 1 sacral and 1 coccygeal. So here there is 1 sacral and then 1 coccygeal vertebrae. Then talking about the 12 pairs of ribs which are connected dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to the sternum. So here we can see, now this part is the sternum. This bone is called as the sternum, to which all the ribs are connected. So in the front side all the ribs are connected to the sternum, and at the back they are connected to this vertebral column, and there are 12 such ribs. So as we can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 ribs. So there are 12 pairs. Okay, so there are 12 pairs of ribs connected dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to the sternum. Then 11th and 12th rib bones are not connected with sternum, and they are called as the floating ribs. Okay, so as we can see here, this 11th and the 12th rib is not connected to this sternum, and that is why they are called as the floating ribs. So this is all in today's video. In the next video we will talking about all these girdles, the pectoral and pelvic girdles and the joints. So we will finish this chapter in the next video. Thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe to the Bodhi Academy.